In this video, we'll try to understand how we can debug threads in CSharp using Visual Studio. Now, in this program, we have a very simple method here called as my method. And this my method, what it does is it actually has a for loop which actually runs 10 times. And while this for loop is running, it actually goes and manipulates a simple variable I. It just increments this variable I as it goes and runs through every for loop. And after it manipulates this variable I, it actually goes and halts that thread for 5 seconds. Now let's go ahead and invoke this my method by creating 2 threads. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create one thread here called as one, right? And I'll go and pass this my method over here, right? Second, I'll create one more thread here called as 2. Okay, and he also goes and invokes the my method. So both of these guys, I'm going to just say here one.start and two.start, right? So we have a very simple my method here, and this my method is invoked via 2 threads, that is one and two. And just to make sure that we do not just make our application run away, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and put a console.readline here, so that this static void main thread halts and we can see the outputs properly. Now this small console application which I have written here, you would like to go and debug this console application. So probably you would like to go and put a small debug point here inside this for loop here, and you would like to know that this variable I is manipulated when, it is manipulated by which thread, etc. So what many of our regular friends will do is they will actually go and put a small debug point here, and they will just go and do F5, and you can see that that the debugger has now come and it has halted at this debug point here, and you are able to debug. But this debugging has problems. The first problem with this approach is I'm not able to figure out that currently my debugger is debugging which thread. Because you have to remember that this my method is called via 2 threads, one and two, right? So I'm not currently I'm not able to figure out that my debugger point is debugging one or it is debugging two. So in order to figure out currently which thread you are debugging, what you can do is click on debug, click on Windows, and you can see that there is a small menu here called as threads. Click on that. So if you click on that, now it opens up a big Pandora box here, and this Pandora box gives you a complete insight of what's happening inside all the threads. Okay, so the first point to note here is that this LO sign over here, this LO sign says that this is where your current debugger is debugging, and you can see that I can now know that yes, there is some worker thread which is basically going and debugging this thread. So you can see that currently this my method is been debugged by this worker thread here. Also, I would like to give you a simple overview of what you're seeing in this thread panel over here, because it looks very confusing, right? But it is not. First thing is, you can see that there is something here called as the main thread. Now when your application runs, right, it always runs on a thread, and that thread is this thread. So this green sign and the name main thread signifies that this actually runs your static void main. Okay. Second, you can see that there are lots of worker thread here. Worker threads are nothing but they are background threads. If you remember, right, in a previous part of the video I had talked about background and foreground threads. So in other words, they are you can think about they are auxiliary threads which are spanned from this main thread. Okay, so that we can distinguish, yes, this is the main thread and these are the worker threads. Okay, now from these worker threads, how can we figure out that which are our threads and which are the threads which are spawned by the console application? So you can know from here now that you can see this last 2 worker threads, their location is my method. At least I know that currently they are attached with my method, so I can figure out that these 2 are my worker threads, that is one and two, which I have created. And the other threads which you see over here are nothing but they are spawned for probably doing transitions. Probably you can see that one is actually running the VS host, some are running this .NET system events. So these are more threads which are used by the .NET runtime. So when we go and debug threads, right, we should be concerned with only 2 kinds of threads. One is the threads which we have spawned, that is the worker threads over here which are attached to my method, and the second one is the main thread which actually goes and runs your application. Now the second complaint which I can clearly hear now sitting over there is, okay, this is good that these 2 threads are nothing but one is one and the other one is two, but who is what, right? Because both of them are having this name as no name. So as a good practice, what you should do is, whenever you go and create threads, right, specifically, if you want to ensure that your debugging is smooth, go and name your threads. So what I'll do is I'll go and say that, okay, this thread name is ONE1 and this thread name is TWO2, right? And now let's go ahead and again do debugging, right? Now you can see very clearly over here, now we are able to distinguish, yes, this is ONE1 and this is TWO2. And on the top of it now, we can see this yellow sign here. So we are now knowing that, yes, currently the location where the debugger is running, it is running on this ONE1 thread. So definitely, naming your threads is a very good practice, and specifically when you're debugging multi-threaded applications, right, this will come very handy. Now I would like to make one more point here, which is very important. When your debugger is debugging a thread, right, all the other threads will also go in a halt mode, or they will also go in a debug mode. In other words, for example, you can see over here currently my debugger point is on ONE1, okay, but do not think that the TWO2 is running parallelly at the background. No, because your debugger has now what you call has stopped the application, or it has halted the application or paused the application at my method, right? At the same time, all the other worker threads, including the static void main, even they are halted. So at any given moment of time, if you want to ever go and switch to this TWO2, for example, you can see now over here, I have this ONE1 here, and I can see this yellow sign here stating, yes, you are currently debugging what you call ONE1 thread. But if I want to just go and see, okay, what's happening in TWO2, I can go and select over here this TWO2 and I can double click. So if I double click now, I can know, yes, the TWO2 is currently over here. Okay. So one more very important point, to remember when you're debugging threads is basically when your debugger is attached or it is debugging one thread, right? Or if you have paused your debugger at one point, all the threads will also be paused at their respective points. Now, many times, it can happen that, you'd run into a scenario where you'd like to debug one thread, and while you're debugging that thread, right, you'd like to go and pause the other thread. So for example, like I'm debugging ONE1 and I would like to go and say, okay, TWO2, can you just go and pause yourself? So that's again very much possible here. What you can do is that, for example, let's say that we want to go and debug only ONE1 thread and TWO2 we want to pause it. So right click on this thread here, and you can see here there is something called as freeze and thaw. So if I click on freeze now, what will happen is now my debugger will only allow, or it will only debug ONE1, and the TWO2 will go under a pause. You can see also the icon over here, it is stating that this is a pause mode. Okay. So now if I go and do step-by-step debugging here, so you can see that I am going and running my debugger point. So you can see this TWO2 is not running at all. Okay, it is just running ONE1. Okay, and in case I want to again go back and revoke the same, what I can do is I can just click again on this thread and say here thaw. So if I say here thaw, right, again my TWO2 starts running. You can see that the yellow sign is also highlighted here. So this freeze and thaw you will use, when you want one thread to be stopped, and then you would like to go and debug the other thread isolatedly so that you can figure out the problems. Sometimes you would like to go and debug specifics. Specifics means, for example, now when I put my debug point here and if I run my application, right, I can either halt on thread 1 or I can either halt on thread 2. But sometimes I like to say no, like I want to only halt on thread 2. I'm not interested, to halt my debugger on thread 1. So what I can do is I can go ahead and create this debug point as a conditional breakpoint. Okay, so I can put a condition here and I can say here, okay, system dot threading dot thread dot current thread name. So if the current thread name, if it is equal to TWO2, then only go and halt my debugger, or else do not. So now if I go and run this, right, if I do F5, I'm sure that my debugger point will only halt when the thread is 2. You can see now my debugger had stopped here, but it is only halting, why? Because, or it's only going in a debug mode, because this worker thread currently on which my code is running is TWO2. So you can see that by naming your threads, or by giving a name to your threads, how easy your debugging becomes when you're debugging multi-threaded applications. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. In this video we discussed some very important couple of points. First is that how to go and debug a thread. So click on debug, click on Windows, go to threads. Second, what's the importance of naming a thread. Third, we also saw the freeze and thaw, by which we can go and halt one thread, and by which we can go and invoke the thread whenever we want it. So isolated debugging is possible by using freeze and thaw. We also saw how we can do conditional debugging by using the name of the thread. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. In this video we were trying to understand some important points while we are debugging C# multi-threaded applications. Thank you so much. Now whatever video you have seen, right, is just a glimpse of what we have done. So in case you are interested in our video package, you can go to our site, that is www.questpon.com. You can call on this number and you can ask the complete DVD package what we have. So in this DVD package what we have done is basically we have covered almost everything what a .NET developer wants. So right from basics of ASP.NET, object-oriented programming, SQL Server, to new technologies like WCF, Silverlight, Link, Azure, Entity Framework. We also have UML, architecture, estimation, project management. There is a complete invoicing project end-to-end which is covered, so that you can get a better feel of how to actually create projects in a systematic manner. We have covered server products, both for SharePoint 2007 as well as for 2010. We have a lot of best practices video on SQL Server, etc. So this complete package, you can get from www.questpon.com if you're interested, and you can call on this number and you can ask for the rates. It's a very decent rate what we have. In the same way, as compared to the videos, we also have one more product with us, that is our interview question books. So we have different kinds of interview question books, right from .NET interview questions to SQL Server interview questions, SharePoint interview questions, BizTalk interview questions, etc. So in case you are interested in the books part, you can call on these numbers as per your location. So you can see these numbers on the board at this moment. So I hope that you keep enjoying the videos, you keep seeing our site, and I hope that you gain more knowledge. Thank you very much.